Good morning. I came to Stockholm 6 o'clock. This is the old city in Stockholm. It's pretty cool. It's just old houses and it's so pretty. And I have to find myself a cup of coffee. No apostasy without coffee. This is the center of Stockholm. That's the King's Castle. That's the Congress. And as you see, it's all built on islands. The whole of Stockholm is built on several islands in a lake. The Bethel used to be in Stockholm. And in the good old days, you know, it used to be the president had all power. There were no governing body. And then in the congregation, there wasn't a body of elders. There was like a company servant. And the same with Bethel, it was one guy in charge of Bethel. It was not a branch committee like now. And the guy in charge of it in Sweden, I think his name was Ekroth. And he actually came from money. He came from a rich family. So in Stockholm, rich people back then, they used to take a Sunday stroll by the lake in the rich part of the city and nod politely to other rich people. That's not a big deal, and since he came from that part of the city, he actually used to do that. He used to take a Sunday stroll. And this would actually stumble the other witnesses because they thought it was inappropriate to stroll with the rich people. Most witnesses were working class, but he was not. Obviously he bended, you know, for the truth, but still they did not want him to stroll. They were stumbled. So the fact that he died a poor man because of the truth wasn't good enough. Jag har jobbat lite mot min vilja sedan 2004, stannar bara på grund av att man blir utesluten. Och det betyder att mina europeiska mänskliga rättigheter blev violated, jag tänker på engelska. Och det betyder att jag är ett offer. Det är inte för att det är synd om mig, men i juridiskt sammanhang. För annars kan man inte ta den norska staten till rätten. Man kan inte ta norska staten till rätten utan att man är den som är kränkt på något vis. Och i Norge så får Jehovas vittnen 1000 kronor i året i bidrag för att de kidnappar folk. Det betyder att den norska staten bryter mot mänskliga rättigheter. Det betyder att vi kan ta norska staten till EU-domstolen. Ja, och det är bra. This is Linda. We grew up in the same congregation. We're both disfellowshipped. Hello, mom and daddy. Hashtag
all religions must.
Hashtag
all religions must.
Hashtag
all religions must.
Ja, heja Sverige.
Nu går vi och äter.
French hot dog. In Norway we don't eat that part of the dog.
Så det var för det är liksom därför hon blev utesluten. Hon rökte cigaretter, det var en del av det liksom. Hon hade sett henne röka cigaretter på balkongen. Och sen för att hon inte kan stå ut med det liksom. Så blev hon. Men det varierar alltså.
So I'm in the old city square in Stockholm, and I will tell you some J-dub related stories because I actually have childhood memories from here. It's a nice, turn this around. It's a nice old square in the old city. Stockholm is situated on a lot of islands, so that's why it's so cramped. It's built on an island, very small island. But I grew up 2 hours away from here in a very small city, and my father was the town blacksmith, so if you needed something welded and stuff like that, you come to him. But we also had a gift shop. He made, you know, stuff, candle holders, stuff like that, and sold. And my mother was not working because the most important was to indoctrinate the children, like she said. They meant well. Anyway, so when you have a gift shop like that, most of the sales will be in December because that's when the worldly people buy stuff. You know, that's life. And so he would go here in December on a market be standing here and selling. And every market has a name. It could be called winter market, December market, Christmas market. That's really out of his control. They call it Christmas market. And big problem, because the witnesses decided that someone else might get stumbled. So he couldn't do that anymore. And he had to step down as an elder. Because think about it. Life's not complicated enough. Why would a father of 5 be allowed to provide for his family with a low-income job? Why not make his life more complicated? Because someone else called it Christmas market? The name of the market wasn't in his control anyway. If they would have called it winter market, it would be okay. So stupid. Anyway, lodging in Stockholm is expensive, and the people, you know, working merchants on the market, you know, we get to know each other. I spend a lot of time here actually. I have good memories. Anyway, so he got to know some worldly people also selling their stuff, and they invited him to stay in their home. It's really nice. So he was allowed to do that, and in my hometown, it's a very small place, only 2,000 people living there, but we have 2 very big markets in the summer. So his worldly friends here, they said, you know, you can stay in our house and we can stay in your house during the summer market. And we have a big house, really, so it wouldn't be a problem. But they were worldly. So my mother totally freaked out. You know, they cannot stay, even though my father, the head of the household, had promised them we could not have worldly people in our house, because only reason they are worldly, terrible. That's why they are called worldly. It was really awkward for my father. So life's not complicated enough. Let's join a cult. So this is the Stockholm guard. He's guarding the palace, and he's not allowed to move. So back in the day I used to preach the shit out of them. I even delivered a watchtower and put it behind them in the little house. It's a miracle I didn't get shot. In the late 1800s, people started measuring everything. It used to be they were happy if they could find a city, but then they decided they wanted to know exactly where it was on the millimeter. Not only the longitude, but also the latitude and the altitude. And how do you measure the altitude? Well, they did in Stockholm put a silver rod in the mountain, and they put this hatch to hide it so no one can tamper with it. So inside here we have a silver rod vertically, and if you're in Sweden you could either be above or a line or under this silver rod. But today no one uses this. In Europe we have a 0 point in Holland, so this is antique. But I think it's a good illustration on what we're doing here, our form of activism. We want all religions to follow human rights. It used to be like, religion is good. Why? Because it's religion. Faith is good. Why? Because it's faith. Why? Because they believe things without evidence, so they're wonderful people. We don't use that anymore. We use human rights and children's rights. Among these rights are religious freedom of religion, but also freedom to leave religion, and children's rights to be respected, not being indoctrinated too much. So we wouldn't use a silver rod in Sweden anymore if we want to decide what's high or low. And we can't just label something religion and say this is good no matter what they do. So I'm on the border between Sweden and Norway. We have to skip the Norwegian, and the Swedish train is electric and the Norwegian runs on diesel, so we have to take a new train. It's been a long week of apostasy, really long. It takes much more time. You know, I spend more time on my activism than I did as a pioneer, but at least this is related to reality. I just thought I'd tell you, when I was a kid, I remember we were waiting for the train, and you know, the man speaks in the loudspeaker, you know, train approaching, blah blah blah. My little brother, who was sitting in his stroller, and said, "It's the voice of Jehovah." It was kind of fun. He had a very deep voice when he was a toddler. Jehovah som talar. It's the voice of Jehovah. Anyway, here's my Norwegian train coming. And this was fun. But it was really taxing also. It's gonna be 2.5 weeks before I come back to my goats. Thank God there were the people helping me, because I couldn't do this alone. But it's a worthy cause, and we're planning more demonstrations. Hashtag all religions must.